kid too off the court.
Welcome back. We have another installment of the Bench Mob podcast. For those that are tuning in, you're going to see me and Greg have the same stuff on because we just recorded a show before this. So we really logging in minutes out here. We have special guest DLam. I saw his tweet. He said, "Don't call him David, call him DLam." DLam. We got DLam with us, one of the top player development skilled trainers that we have in the Jersey area. DLam, thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule. We know how busy your schedule is. Thank you for hopping on the Bench Mob to come talk with us with some sports and some basketball, man.
Appreciate y'all having me, man. Happy to be here. Happy to be part of this.
For you, getting straight into it, we mentioned a little bit, we talked about it, COVID and everything happening. How has that been for you as a trainer? You know, everything is different. You probably can't have, you see a lot of kids that don't have either seasons or things like that. How has it been for you? Has it affected how you train or anything like that?
Big time. I'll start off on the business side of things because I think that helps give a little bit of context. So by somehow, honestly, my business actually grew during COVID because not so much obviously during like March at the very beginning of the pandemic, but just kind of during the summer when I came back, like June-ish, when outdoor sports were starting to be allowed again and everything because AAU had stopped. Obviously kids are still looking to get work in and everything. So because there weren't really any AAU tournaments and there wasn't that time conflict and everything, it just so happened to work out where my business actually had grown during COVID. So obviously it's a terrible situation with COVID, and if I could snap my finger, obviously I would make it go in an instant. But at the same time, I'm definitely blessed that I was able to take advantage of those opportunities to be able to have my business grow during this time. But training wise, for sure, man, obviously trying to limit contact as much as possible. Really we're prohibiting contact, but I've been posting a few Instagram videos for like really just showing some of the things that we're doing in terms of working on like decision making, working on different things that typically you would need to obviously have a little bit of contact to be able to simulate. But it's tough, it's a challenge. So it's just really trying to be creative, using whatever resources we have to really just try to make the most of this, situation.
Hey, I can't even imagine how tough that is as a trainer to do that, being that basketball is a contact sport and some of it is needed. But I've seen some of the videos. It's great creativity of the simulation of trying to do it without the contact, and it's a huge blessing that your business is growing through it. So I really hope that continues even once COVID is done, that it just keeps growing and growing and growing. Like, I can't go through most gyms and not hear your name pop up at some point, or see some kid that has not trained with you. How has that been for you? That, like, how do you handle the growth of the business and, the more Instagram followers? Like, how do you balance that out of staying humble and staying hungry? Because it is growing, and some people get comfortable in the growth and the more followers, but it doesn't seem that you're getting comfortable at all.
Nah, man, definitely not. I take that back. There are times, for sure, I'll be honest, that there are times where I not like minor lapses and times where I'll kind of like rest on my laurels per se. If especially during like times where I have like long training days or something, it's like, okay, I'm not really trying to do this. I'm really trying to do that. Just because, if you're in the gym 8-10 hours, shit gets kind of exhausting. Oh, I'm sorry, am I allowed to? I shouldn't cuss.
You good.
No, so yeah, man, stuff gets exhausting for sure. But no, I definitely tried to continue to push myself. It's something that, being a former basketball player, just trying to, grow my game, try to push myself to be the best player I could be, try to, get to the goals that I want. Those lessons, I always say that sports is the best teacher. Sports is the best teacher in terms of like learning all those different life lessons, being able to hold yourself accountable for situations, being able to obviously have a great work ethic, teamwork, communication. There's so many different lessons that you can learn throughout sports, whether it be basketball, football, golf, whatever. So I've been able to take a lot of those lessons that I've learned during my time playing and be able to relay them to what I do now with business. With growing the business, like I don't know, I definitely continue to push myself for sure. Like it's just something that uh, I know where I want to be. I know that what I'm capable of, and by no means, and it's also again going back to the lessons that I'm preaching to kids: continue to grow yourself, continue to be better than yesterday. Those are lessons that, even though I'm obviously not playing, those are lessons that I need to be able to apply to what I do, so that I can practice what I preach and not just be out here being a fake teacher talking about do this, do that, but I'm not doing the same for myself.
I mean, that's valid, and I think that's the big reason why there's a lot of draw to you because they know you're real. Like, and like for the first time I met you, I didn't even know too much about your brand. I had to learn a little bit. I think we met the first time at one of Wellington's tryouts. I think a year before, the previous year, the year before this year's tryout, man. And I'd seen you around. I'd heard a little bit, but didn't know too much about the brand. And just talking to you, man, like you're just a genuine guy. So I'm not surprised that the brand does as well, that your brand does as well as it does, and that you do as well as you do in this space. It could being genuine and being real commands a lot of respect, especially with this generation of kids that are coming up hooping. They need to know you can do it too, and need to know that you're not just you need to know the why behind whatever you teach them, and you do a really good job explaining that even on your Instagram breakdowns. But one thing I wanted to ask you too, I've always wondered this, is your origin story, man. Like, how'd you get into training? Like, obviously, I know you have a background in hooping, but like, where did this all start for you?
Yeah, before I get into that question, I just want to add on to the last part, just because I want to add a little bit more context. Just because you mentioned it, like yeah, I recognize that my brand is growing a little bit, and obviously I'm beyond blessed and humbled for that to happen. But at the same time, like I'm lucky to call upon mentors who are some of the quote unquote best basketball trainers in the world, like DJ Sackman, Drew Hanlon. I have relationships with these guys to where I can reach out to them when need be, and to see them, at the stage where they are, obviously where they're world renowned trainers, and they're very, very humble dudes. They're phenomenal guys, and obviously way busier than me. It just, there's no reason that I can't be like that. And it's all about, at the end of the day, like regardless of how many followers I have, regardless of how big the business gets and everything like that, at the end of the day, it should and will be about the craft, about the relationships. So it's all about, being able to build relationships with the players that I work with, be able to give them as much value as I can, and hopefully, be able to see them be able to get results from the stuff that I teach. So that's always going to be the premise of it. There's so many different ways to make money and stuff like that, but if you're not true about it, if you're not really about this life, then it's there's not really room. There's the real will show eventually. Like there are trainers out there, obviously not going to name names, who just kind of go through it for the paycheck and everything, which is cool. I understand it's a job, but for me, it's always going to be at the end of the day about the purity of the craft. You know what I mean? But going back to, I'm sorry, I forgot the origin story.
Yeah, man. Yeah, just take me back to like where it all started, man. I mean, I'm curious because like I've seen some of your Instagram posts about your past and growing up, and just little bits and pieces about how you got into this and how you got into this game, right? But there's a real passion for the game that you have, and like I know because Tone can tell you, I started a little bit of my own training program, a training company that I was working. We doing basketball training. It started with my little brother who played for Unity, and them days get crazy. Like trainers work hard. I mean, it was like 9 a.m. to 9 at night when things were good, and real life came knocking. I got a job. Like I got a 9 to 5, I guess, kind of. But no, man, I'm curious. I'm really curious as to know like how this all started for you.
Sure. I mean, I was always one of those kids who obviously not 6'7", don't have a 40-inch vert and stuff like that. So I've always had to obviously work super hard on the skill set part of my game, but it's always come it's always been a fascination. I've always been one of those guys who like I need to know every little part of, you know, why we're doing this, how we're doing it, how it applies, like just every little detail as a kid. You know what I mean? So just that attention to detail obviously continues to stick with me. And, you know, eventually, like, I'll tell you that I obviously, like every other kid, had hoop dreams, tried to play college ball. I played 2 years I'm originally from South Jersey, small town called Deptford. I played 2 years at a local JUCO. Uh, and from there, obviously, I didn't really do what I wanted to do there, but tried to transfer to a small school in California. I went there, my knee was kind of messed up, so I didn't play. But then I came back after that semester to Montclair State University, and once I came back, I kind of realized that like all the, you know, trying to chase the hoop dreams and everything, like although I still kind of enjoyed it, I kind of started to lose the love for actually like playing, just because there's a lot of that goes into that, just in terms of like there's a lot of good players out there that just don't have the right opportunities to, you know, to be able to be put in front of those college coaches or people, those decision makers, which is obviously why I'm such a big fan of your guys' program with Unity, because I think you guys do a great job being able to put kids in front of, you know, those decision makers. But yeah, I started to just really honestly start to lose love for the game in terms of playing. But as I was lucky enough to, as that was kind of winding down, my love for teaching the game started to kind of come up. And just especially with Instagram popping off in like, this is like 2016, being able to see guys like like I said, the Drew Halens, the DJ Segments, guys who I see like, oh wait, like you can really make money training. You can actually like make a living training, and still being around the game and not necessarily coaching, but like still being around the game and being, you know, having that attention to detail to really help basketball players. So I was like, you know, I'm in. So it was a rough journey for sure. But it was, you know, obviously super, super gratifying. I'm super happy to be where I am right now.
What with being a trainer, Greg mentioned he did it. I did it for a little bit, and I already knew that was not what I wanted to do. That's a whole nother level of, like you said, attention to detail, and very, 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 very long days that trainers have to do. What is the most gratifying thing when training these players? Like seeing them excel, seeing the players come back again and again, making an impact on their lives, where some of these players become like family to you. Like, what's the most gratifying part of this process for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's for sure the relationships, like being, like I said, being able to work with a kid, whether it be once a week, whether it be 7 times a week, like just being able to really build that relationship to the point where they are like family, like that's absolutely the most gratifying part. It's being able to see them grow. Like obviously, I'm working with a lot more like kids that are younger than me. You know, not too young. Obviously, a lot of high schoolers, college kids. But being able to see them grow, especially with like, you know, as a person too, the maturity levels, like kids that I've trained since they were freshmen in high school. Like I have a kid who I worked with, one of the first kids I worked with. He was a freshman in high school a few years ago, and now he's, you know, a freshman at NJIT. So, you know, throughout those 4 years, being able to see kids like that, their growth as players, as people, like that's it for me. You know what I mean? Being able to see that for sure. And basketball wise, like I call it like those aha moments, like, you know, when a kid or a player is struggling with something that you teach them and it's like, oh man, can't get it right. But then that one moment where it is kind of everything clicks, you know what I mean? It might take 2 reps, it might take, you know, a couple of days, but once that kind of clicks and then they're like, oh man, I got it now. That's like, you know, that's the kind of gratifying moment. It's like, yes, that's it. And then obviously when they're able to apply it into a real game situation or something, like I've, you know, a couple of kids who will just, they'll send me clips, you know, of them doing a move that we worked on in games. And I'm like, that's what it's about.
No, man, I couldn't agree with you more. And that freshman you're talking about at NJIT, he is a problem. I've seen him out here on the gram. I seen you posted him He's cold. I actually hooped him at a run a couple of years back. He's cold. Like me and Ruben were talking about that. My little brother, he's nice. But another thing I want to talk to you a little more about too is like the actual training piece of it, right? I think every kid needs work in different parts of their game, right? Is there any like core skill set you're trying to teach people? Like, is there any area you focus on more than others? I know certain trainers are better with certain different things.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the last part of the question.
Yeah, I was saying, like, is there any core skill set you're focusing on with young guys, like in terms of like shooting the ball, ball handling? Is there anything specifically you're working on that you specialize in, or do you work on like their entire game as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes in different segments per se. Like, if it's a kid that I'm working with more so in an intimate setting, like a one-on-one, like, you know, just maybe two people in the workout or something like that, like we have a more specialized focus. We really try to, depending on what level they're at, you know, I mean, especially for the older guys and girls, I try to, we have a sit down, we break down what parts of their game they, you know, feel like they're good at, what parts of their game like, for example, this is something that we do. It's called a SWOT analysis. I stole it from Drew Hanlon. And essentially, you know, for these guys who are a lot more like high level players, we'll go ahead and break down the game. And not even just high level players. I've done it with, you know, a bunch of high school players, but we'll break down the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities for them to grow, in their game, and threats, things that are going to kind of prohibit them from being able to either be on the court or just, you know, thrive in general on the court. So if they're like a defensive liability or something, that would be a threat. And we go ahead and just kind of talk about those things and really kind of break down their entire game and try to figure out what are the specific things that we need to focus on, like right now. Like, obviously, for a 16-year-old, there's tons and tons of things that they can work on, but just really trying to narrow down with their what parts of their game they need to work on, so we can have a more clarified focus and just make sure we're not just like running around doing this workout today, this workout tomorrow, as like a bunch of different stuff. But overall, like, we do try to have a central focus for each player, and for like the group workouts and stuff, there's still a central focus. Like, starting this past year, I wrote out like a curriculum. So for, you know, 8 weeks of training, every week had a specified focus, whether it be pin downs, whether it be whatever, just stuff that any high school player is going to need, or any middle school player is going to need in their game. Just really being able to break down the nuances of those things and really be able to make sure that they at least have a good understanding of it. And obviously the things that they feel like they need a little bit more, for example, like in a group workout, for example, like I'll have Jaden Carter, a point guard, and Drew Stack, who is transitioned to be a point guard, but he's also like a two guard as well. Yeah. So for them, it's like, yeah, we're working on the same thing now, but Drew, you might need to work on this more, and Jaden, you might need to work on that more. So it's, you know, giving them, like, obviously you only have so much time, like an hour or whatever, an hour and a half per session, but then being able to give them feedback so they know exactly what they should be focusing on when they get home, and obviously hold themselves accountable.
Yeah, no, and for all the listeners out there, he just gave a shout out to the Unity Legends program. Drew and Jaden, yeah, they don't want these ones. They don't want ones with me. They're trying to duck me with these ones. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy, DLam. Yeah. They think I'm washed. They think I'm washed. It's crazy.
Hey man, you gotta let them know sometimes. You gotta let them know.
You be getting challenged to ones?
Huh?
You be getting challenged to these ones? These guys, they be testing you?
Once in a while, I give them the old man excuse though. I can't be out here. Look, I can't be out here training 8 hours a day, and then you're gonna try to challenge me at the end of the day. Like, that's not how it works. You have to catch me in the winter on a fresh day, like 2 weeks to warm up.
They know what they're doing.
You mentioned the SWOT analysis you got from Drew Hanlon, right? So when it comes to your training, you had started. Where do you go for your workouts? Like, is this a lot of it from your mentors? Is a lot of it, you know, just off of your own creativity from what you've seen in your basketball career and what you know, your knowledge of what needs to be worked on? Or is like a combo of mentors, your knowledge, and you put it together and there's your program.
Yeah, I mean it's a combination for sure. Like I've learned a ton from mentors, whether it be former trainers that I've had, obviously business and other mentors like TJ and Drew, like I mentioned. But honestly, the biggest part of that is just a ton of film study. Obviously experience too. Like there are a lot of things that I've done 3 years ago, 4 years ago that I wouldn't necessarily do now. But so being able to kind of grow as a trainer and realize that okay, we tried this, it didn't really work as well as we would have liked, so let's try to pivot off of that. But for sure, being able to study film. I'm a big proponent of whatever you see in games. Like honestly, I'll be honest, I don't think to be a basketball trainer, I don't really think it's that hard. Like if you just literally watch a basketball game and you just really watch it and you replicate what those guys are doing, and like it, yeah, obviously there are certain nuances that are tough to be able to adjust to and take some time. But for the most part, it's like if you just watch a game and just teach what you see in that game, like that's you're in a very, very good position. Like just being able to study a ton of film, learn from mentors and be able to learn from prior experiences, just a lot of trial and error. I think those three things are the kind of the core concepts that go along with being able to really just grow your IQ and understand how to be a basketball trainer, how to help these kids and help these basketball players grow.
That's a really good point too.
Yeah, that's really good points. That's important. A lot of people, I don't think, from trainers that I've seen, not naming names, some of them, they don't do that aspect of the film study. Like that's something I think definitely transfers over whether you play still or not, is the film study and being able to now apply it to the court. What is one of the things that you think is lacking when you see some of these player development or training programs? What do you think is one of the things that's definitely lacking in that?
Good question. I think that in general, there are a lot of guys who just are mimicking other trainers. And I say that in the sense of like, oh, I watched this Instagram video, it looks cool, let me go ahead and take it and apply it, which is cool, but you need to understand all the details that go along with it. Like I know there are a lot of training methodologies out there that are somewhat taboo or like that are very critiqued, but if you have good reasoning behind it, then at least you're able to back it. But there are a lot of trainers who will just take something they see off of social media and then try to replicate it and not know all the nuances of it, and then that's how your kids could potentially get hurt or just not optimize the time that they have with you. So I think that like you just said, man, just being able to really understand everything that you're doing, like, and how it applies to games is really the main thing. There are a lot of trainers who are just training off of fluff. Trainers who think that they're good trainers because they had a great playing career, and it doesn't work like that. Like there are plenty of great students out there, like just to use another analogy, there are plenty of 4.0 students out there who would not be able to go in front of the classroom and start teaching, from the textbook. And that's just because they don't know all the nuances behind those things. Like you really have to be able to know things in and out. Like, again, I talk about the simplicity of being a player development coach, but there's so many different things that go along with it actually. Like, like I said, being able to understand how to develop skill, but then beyond that, how do you develop relationships to be able to have the player actually give a damn about what you're talking about? How do you how do you know how it applies, and how do you know how it applies to what they're doing? You have to know their offensive systems. Do you know what Princeton offense is? Do you know what a ball screen continuity? Do you know what these different actions are? Spain, stagger. Like, do you know all the options of it? Do you know how these actions work? How do you know these defensive concepts? Do you know how, like, it's a lot that goes into kind of what the top of the top do. And not saying that I'm a a top tier trainer, but understanding and having these conversations with top tier trainers, it's like there's a different level to it that a lot of people just really don't know about.
That's key. That's key with this whole thing too. Like when I started getting into the training thing, like the training space, it really was out of a place where I was trying to work with my little brother and just trying to get him as good as possible. What I realized quickly was that like the knowledge I had from playing basketball, it doesn't match up to a lot of like the professional trainers that do this. And I didn't think that I had that, right? But like when you talk to someone like you, right, and you're talking about the defensive principles and you're talking about different offenses and ball screen continuity, like there's levels to it, right? There's levels to this. There's definitely benefit in working with a professional basketball, like a basketball trainer. At the same time, right, on the other side of the token, do you advocate for young guys to work on, like, how much are you advocating for that? So for them to work on their own, like just work on their own game on their own time, like how much are you advocating for that with these guys?
I would, well, first of all, also, I'm sorry, just add on to the last point with trainers. Like I say that, but at the same time, it is by no means me bashing any trainers. Like
No.
there's plenty of basketball players that can benefit, especially like younger players, from just go ahead and work with this guy and do a bunch of ball handling, get a ton of shots up. Like I don't see like any flaw with that. But I think at the same, sometimes it gets to me how people market themselves like, oh, I'm an elite trainer because I played at this level. And it's like, no, you're an elite basketball player at that level. And you have yet to prove yourself to be, quote unquote elite. Everybody's an elite trainer these days. So it's a term that you can't really take serious. But no, man, I 100% that, like, I think it's more important for basketball players to work by themselves than work with trainers. Like obviously, a qualified trainer can bring a ton of value, but at the same time, like I have plenty of players who have come to me and kind of half-assed a workout, but I know that they're not really holding themselves accountable at home. Like they'll come in for a workout, but they're not really about getting better. They're just kind of here to get a sweat in and call it a day, which is cool. But it's like you really, like when it comes to getting yourself better, you need to have a plan. We talked about like the players that I do that stuff with, like the SWOT analysis and everything. Like those are players that I know are going to take it seriously. I'm not going to waste my time doing it with a player that, is not going to, that I know is not going to follow through on the plan that we laid out for them. So it's super important for these players to hold themselves accountable and be able to, whatever we work on, take from themselves and go ahead and work on it. Or even if we don't work on it, that's why I post stuff on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot, just so that they can actually take some stuff and if they don't have the resources, they don't have the money or whatever to be able to afford a trainer, then there's so much content out there, there's so much information out there that you should still be able to get better regardless. And it all comes down to accountability. Like how much do you want to improve yourself as a basketball player?
Two-part question. Accountability is definitely key, and that's in life. You see it in school. The teacher can give you all the information and notes and whatnot. If you don't go read it at home, you're not going to be able to apply it. We see accountability is needed across the board. You mentioned so far multiple times, you say, we set up this plan, we work the player. Is it a team of you and others that work with these players, or is it just you? And secondly, I've seen your videos. They're very helpful. The breakdowns, as you said, for somebody that may be struggling financially, if you have a phone and Instagram, DLam training is going to give you a nice amount of drills that you could do. How much does social media play as a factor in your business and its success and its growth?
Yeah. I'm sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question?
When you mention is the team of people, like do you have a team working?
No, so in terms of just basketball stuff, it's just me. It's just me kind of doing all the training, running everything at the moment. We'll see how much growth we have throughout the next year or a couple of years or whatever, and that'll kind of dictate if it makes sense to bring more people in and be able to continue to kind of touch, more basketball players around the area, if that makes more sense. But at the time being, it's just me and my camera guy. Actually, he's obviously behind the camera, helping me a lot with the social media stuff. Uncut X Remy, Zach Massing, he's been phenomenal helping me with my stuff. But yeah, he's been obviously, like I said, with the social media stuff, he's been phenomenal helping me with that. It's been huge, man. Social media, obviously, that's just this is the time that we live in now, where you have to be able to, you have to be able to market yourself. You have to be able to show people what you can do. And I think that everybody has their own philosophy with it. Some people may be a little bit more old fashioned and it's like, oh, you know what? I don't want to be on social media doing this, that, and the third, which there are plenty of successful, basketball people out there who are not on social media, like trainers and stuff like that, who, I've been able to find other ways to be able to grow their business and maintain a, great client base, which is fantastic. And there are other people who have built their, businesses on the back of social media. So I think that it's just about how you go about it. You know what I mean? I try to, like I said, I'm not out here on TikTok doing these dances and trying to, clout chase and everything like that. I'm trying to, like, the way that I want to do is, I want to be authentic. I want to bring value. I want to show people that, there is another way to go about basketball training than just working hard or doing a bunch of, nonsense drills that we feel are just up, that we should be doing now just because we've seen them all throughout the years, like all these different, whatever drills, tennis ball, two balls, or whatever like that. Like, I think that if done in the right context, yes, they can help. But I think that, my philosophy at least is just that there are other ways we can go about it. And I try to highlight that, in what I do. So just trying to be authentic on social media. Obviously, finding different ways to be able to get that message out to as many people as we can. But at the end of the day, it's just, I think that it's a valuable marketing tool that we should, it's free, that we should be taking advantage of.
That's a fact. And you do a really good job of that, by the way. Like it's like first of all, Zach Uncut Remy does a phenomenal job with the camera. A1, yeah. up and coming like that. It's really really the videos are fire, bro. And then you see like a lot of the content he puts on his page, like it's great. So shout out to him. Hopefully get him a tag here on one of these clips.
We got him. We got him on the show next week. We're gonna talk.
It's confirmed.
Sure.
We're gonna talk to Zach.
I'll make sure.
Hey man, bench pop blowing up. I don't know, but the next question I have for you, bro. Just thinking as you were talking here, I know you did the 30-day video series where you were breaking down film on like certain players and things of that nature. And I couldn't help but notice that it was all, for the most part anyways, a lot of it was NBA players, right? That you were breaking down. Some coaches are of the thought that young hoopers should only watch college basketball players because they play harder. And for the listeners, I'm putting air quotes around that because I don't know how much I subscribe to that line of thinking. I think there's some truth to it, but I don't know. I want to get your take on that. Like, are you obviously? I kind of know where you stand on it. You're showing younger players pro film, which I think makes a lot of sense. But what is your thinking behind that? And do you have a preference in terms of what film you're gonna analyze and have young players analyze?
For the first question, I'm sorry, what was the question part? Was the first?
Yeah, honestly, I rambled there a little bit, but the main question is, like, do you have like a preference in terms of like what young players, like which level of basketball young players should focus on in terms of film study?
College
and basketball, NBA. For
sure. I think it makes sense for sure to watch a lot of college film for these guys. The stuff that I watch for NBA players, like, for example, like I can understand that, the concerns that, because I've played for coaches like that who were like, shouldn't watch that much NBA basketball because they're not doing this or there's too much ISO ball. They're not playing hard on defense. And it's like, all right, you can play as hard as you want, but like it's very, very hard to stop Kevin Durant. And also, if I have Kevin Durant on my team, it's like I'm not going to be running through some, whatever convoluted offense when I can just run through this one or two actions, get him the ball, and get the heck out of his way. like because he's a 7-foot guard, he's gonna shoot over people. So I do I subscribe to that? Yeah, to an extent. I think that obviously when you look at NBA basketball, like throughout the regular season at least, that there are definitely, points in time where they're not playing as hard as maybe a college basketball player would be. But I mean, also take into consideration that they're playing 82 regular season game, or excuse me, 82 game regular season, as opposed to possibly a 25, 30 game regular season at the college level, depending what level you're at. So, I think that should be taken into account. But for sure, I personally strive to, I lean more towards NBA film for sure. I personally cannot stand college basketball. I'm not a fan of it, but at most levels, the rules are just stupid in my opinion. The shot clock is too long. There's no defensive 3 seconds, so you have these big 7-footers just camping in the lane, just messing up the spacing. The spacing just isn't as good. They're running a bunch of, like, I can go on and on about why I personally am not as big of a fan of college basketball. I need to do a better job of watching it though. But I definitely lean more towards NBA basketball. But at the same time, like with that, it's not like I'm showing kids like films like side steps and 14 those and whatnot. Like, the game is the game. I mean, I'm showing kids like plenty of film on how JJ Redick gets open on pin downs. I'm showing kids how Avery Bradley slides on defense and stuff like that. Like, those are, in my opinion, more applicable. And I mean, you can show them stuff like that from college film for sure. Like, I've definitely shown players like college film as well. But I just tend to lean more towards NBA just because that's just a preference.
You mentioned Avery Bradley and sliding on defense. We talked about the notion that NBA players don't play defense as much or don't play defense as hard. I want to bring up a tweet I saw. You said the thought that defense is solely about effort and heart is crazy. So much technicality that goes along with it from an individual player standpoint, let alone team defense. Can you break down that tweet for me? Because I am of the same mindset. We were all taught at some point, our coach was like, defense is just heart and how bad do you want it? But when you're guarding KD, heart does not matter. He's 7. So can you break down that tweet for me?
Damn, y'all did your homework. Yeah, man. Like there's so many concepts that go along with defense. Obviously from team standpoint, there's so many different, like there's like off the top of my head, like 6, 7 ways to defend a ball screen. Probably more than that. And that's just a ball screen alone. Obviously, different different types of coverages for different, actions and whatnot, how to guard a down screen, a pin down. There's so many different philosophies on how to, from a team aspect, but just individually, like, I think that it's a cop out as with anything else. Like with any, like, for example, we've all been to AU games and coaches and parents are, screaming the same things with your shot. Hold your follow through, bend your knees, follow your shot. Like these are just super generic terms that people are just throwing out there. And I think it just comes from a place of just laziness, in my opinion. Like if you're going to make these statements, like they should, as with anything else, like if you're going to make a statement, there should be some type of evidence behind it. There should be some sort of knowledge behind it. So like defensively, like I had a session today where we spent the first 15-ish minutes just breaking down 2 or 3 defensive concepts, just being able to work on, how like we could literally have an entire podcast just talking about individual defense. Something that I've tried to study and I can do better with it too in teaching it, but I've tried to study it a lot. I've tried to, help players who maybe it doesn't come as natural to be able to figure out different ways to be able to develop those qualities so that they can, become high level defenders. I think that, everything for the most part on the court can be taught to an extent. Like, if there's a kid who has limited athleticism, like obviously I'm not going to turn him into Ja Morant. But there's certain quality, not everybody is going to shoot as well as Steph Curry, but there are certain qualities for sure that can optimize any player's, ability to do a certain task.
I think that's key. Like you said, you make sure. I think the thing is realistic expectations. If it's somebody that's 5'7", you can't come to DLam and think I'm gonna now turn you into Zion Williamson. That's just not. It's only but so much. Let's work on all right, your ball handling, your jump shooting, things of that nature. Staying kind of on that topic, it's been kind of debated. I've heard different people have different mindsets. Like I know I was told growing up, defense wasn't that important because all scouts really look for mainly is people that can put the ball in the bucket. You look at the NBA, a lot of the top paid players are mainly people that can put the ball in the bucket or create offense. What is your viewpoint on the importance of defense and the importance of, hey, you on the other end of the court, can you get a bucket? Can you handle the rock? Can you facilitate?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of come up with a philosophy that every player should have, like obviously to a high school extent at least, every player needs to obviously be able to shoot at a fairly good clip, right? You have to be able to be a consistent and reliable shooter. You have to be able to handle pressure, make sure that obviously whether it be a press, whether it be somebody getting up in you, you have to be able to stay composed and be able to make good decisions. You got to be able to pass, dribble, and finish with both hands. And you got to be able to defend. You got to be able to defend your position. If you can't play, because that's half the game, right? If you're not able to defend on the other end of the court, you better be a bucket getter. Like you better be about a bucket. Like if you're not putting out like 20 plus points a game, and you don't have that trust from your coach to do so, then you're gonna have to be able to affect the game in other ways. And obviously, even if you are able to score at a very high clip, like you still need to, college coaches, like it's important. Like I don't think that it's news to anybody. Like I'm friends with plenty of college coaches who are very, very aware of that fact, who, they can, although you can teach defense, like they can bring you in to teach defense and everything like that. Just being able to have that quality in you to be able to show that you are a willing and able defender. Like I think that especially if you're a fringe player in terms of the scholarship, if you're a fringe D2 or D1 player, if you're just a fringe D3 player or just not playing college basketball at all, like I think that that's something that will potentially separate you from the crowd. Like it's just something that it's, you have to be able to play your heart out on that end, just be able to give yourself as much of a chance as possible to be able to get to where you want to go. There's just no way around it.
Sure. I think if you look at the landscape of like the NBA and guys getting paid, I mean, guys like KD, he's dedicated himself to the defensive end, especially in that Warriors run. And I think I saw him playing a little defense in that preseason game the other night, the first one they played. So like, yeah, and Bron, like with the chase down blocks, there's so much more than that. That's the sexy play everyone's paying attention to, but he does a lot defensively that makes it valuable on that side of the ball. So there's definitely value in there for all the young hoopers listening to the podcast. You definitely want to play some defense if you want to get on the court. One question I have for you too that I've always been interested in too. As a trainer, there are a lot of trainers out there, and a lot of trainers will say, "Hey, we all can eat, right? Like there's no space for all of us in this space." How do you feel about the idea of kids working out with more than one trainer?
I'll be honest. I'm not a fan of it in the sense of not even from I feel threatened or anything. I'm not a fan of it because, like, just like we talked about earlier, if Johnny or whoever, little Johnny is coming to me on Monday to work on his shooting and work on his jump shot, I'm telling him to do this. I'm telling him whatever, giving him whatever tips with his jump shot, and then on Wednesday he goes to another trainer and that trainer's telling him do something different with his jump shot. He's going to have so many different things racking in his head, or even though the jump shot is a very, very sensitive thing. But even aside from that, even from a more general standpoint, if we're working on finishing and he's, tomorrow he's working on ball handling and then the next day he's working on whatever, it's just like, how are you going to expect to get better if you're only working on one part of your game once a week or, 3 times a week or whatever like that? Like you have to be able to have some sort of consistency. So, excuse me, like for example, like obviously I have players who are playing in college, and I try to have relationships with their college coaches to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of that player's development. So I'll give you an example. A player that I work with, Dominique Darius, who's a UCLA women's basketball commit. Um, you know, I've sat down with her coach, and we on FaceTime, and like we've had talks like, okay, this is like where we feel her game is at now. This is where we feel like she has opportunities to grow, and just like understand what they want out of her, and obviously what they'll be working on with her, so that by the time she comes back here, then it's like, okay, we know exactly where we stand. This is what we need to work on. So we're not wasting any time. And whether she goes to another trainer or not, like whether whoever I work with goes to another trainer or not, the goal is to try to help that kid grow as quickly as possible. Obviously, you know, we talk about it being a process, but we have a very central focus, and you know, we're working on finishing, you know, 5 to 6 days out of the week for a month. Like you're going to see rapid improvement in your finishing a lot faster than if you only did it 2 or 3 times a week for 2 months. So I think that in the sense of just the actual development of players, like I'm not a huge fan of it, just because for that matter, because of the lack of communication that kind of goes along with it. But I mean, in terms of competition standpoint, like or a business standpoint, like I'm not threatened by it or anything.
I think that's a really good point too, and it kind of lends itself to the question I had earlier too about like I know certain trainers like specifying certain things, like specialize in certain things. Like Mike Dunn on Instagram will specialize in shooting the ball, and he's great at it, right? Like, and some guys specialize in ball handling. I think similar to like when you play, training is interesting because like it's important to be well-rounded in it, right? And like be knowledgeable in all the different parts of the game, right? I kind of asked you earlier, like, what if you like hang your hat on one to being able to teach one aspect of the game better than anything else, right? Like, circling back to that, right? Like, I know it sounds like you do everything all around, right? Like, I know I just, you know, there's tapes, apparently, there's rumors about you being a ball handling wizard back when you was open. You know what I'm saying? So, like, what do you hang your hat on? Like, what is there anything you do hang your hat on, or you try to be as well rounded as possible in terms of like the skills you specialize in?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Like just touching on that real quick. I certainly think that it's fine for trainers to have a certain niche, like a Mike Dunn, who is a phenomenal shooting coach. We actually worked with a mutual player, a good friend of mine, but he's a phenomenal trainer, and he has a certain niche, obviously. But in terms of like being an all-around trainer, I think that is definitely key for the most part as well. Just because if you're working with a variety of players, you need to be prepared to, you know, if player A needs this, player B needs that, you need to be prepared to be able to give them as much as possible for whatever that player needs. As for me, obviously, I try to be as well-rounded as possible. I try to understand all parts of the game, both from a skill perspective and a game application perspective. In terms of obviously, like we talked about, just how things fit into games, how it fits into what your team does, offensively and defensively. If I had to pick one, I would probably say shooting. Like something that I definitely try to hang my hat on. I've spent a lot of time just studying shooting, studying, you know, all the little different components, being able to try to help players, you know, correct their shots as quickly and efficiently as possible. But you know, I have a lot of room for growth in that department as well.
Speaking of growth and things to work on, which I think is great that you, throughout this whole interview, you have been able to really say, I need growth in this area, I need growth in that area. And that's something that, you know, is needed in life, to be able to be honest and still humble, like, no, I still have room for improvement in this area. What would you say would be some of the top things as a trainer that you would want to improve on? And then the second part, with some of the mentors you have and the connections and the growth that is continually happening, do you have any aspirations to work with professional athletes, or like get a job with the Nets as their trainer? Like, do you have any of those aspirations?
Yeah. In terms of things that I want to get better at, obviously there's a lot of things. I could be more organized. I could be a better communicator. I could be more diligent in terms of when I'm not on the court. A lot of things I'm talking about really aren't on the court. There's so much preparation that leads into it. On the court is like the games for me, and everything else, the film studies, the back end stuff that goes along with the business, that's the practice. Those are the workouts. So for me, and being able to be more diligent with those things, stay more focused, so that I can get those tasks done, so that when I step on the court, everything is easy flowing, and I'm able to we're able to get the most out of that session, that hour or whatever. That's something that I need to improve on for sure. But in terms of aspirations, yeah, like the overall goal for me personally is to work with professional basketball players on a consistent basis. I've kind of started to, crack my foot in that door a little bit, but it's, the end goal is to, bust that door wide open and really be able to continue to get my name out there as a trainer, obviously continue to get that the brand out there and be able to work with players at the highest level and really kind of prove that I am capable of providing value at that level and be able to challenge myself, more importantly, as just a basketball educator, being able to challenge myself at the highest level to show to myself, really just kind of proving up to myself, being, going back to being, having those traits that have transitioned from a basketball player to a businessman, a basketball trainer, still having that competitive fire to show myself like, hey, like how do I know like I can really impact this game at the highest level? Am I able to have a conversation with the Steve Kerrs, the Greg Popoviches, and be able to hold a conversation with them in terms of basketball IQ, and obviously be able to help a player at the highest level go from possibly a borderline NBA player to a solidified NBA vet and be able to change the course of his family's history by obviously having that generational wealth that comes with the NBA contracts. Like that is certainly something that I'm looking forward to being able to achieve one day.
Well, outside looking in, I don't foresee that not happening. With everything that you've said so far, what we see on social media and the work ethic, and from what I heard from players, what I've heard from Zach, that's my brother. From what I've heard, I don't foresee that not happening. For real, for real.
No, I appreciate that, man.
I was saying when we first started the pod, man, it's genuine. It's genuine. When I first met you, you radiate a passion for the game. Like, you know what I mean? Like you radiate a passion for the game, and I guess it takes one to know one. I love basketball in a way that is obsessive myself, right? And it's kind of taken a different form for me outside of just training people. I'm trying to get involved with Unity and things of that nature, but seeing you, it reminds me of like just kind of like that passion, that kid-like joy you have for the game whenever you're on the court or you're around the game, and things of that nature. That being said, right, like, you talked about specializing in shooting, and I've had this discussion with so many people. We had Mingo on the podcast. He said that shooting is the most important thing a basketball player can do.
Absolutely.
You agree?
Absolutely. You got it. You have to be able to shoot, and if you can't shoot at a super high clip, like, I mean, that's first of all, that's just the game today. Like guards, going back to the NBA example, like a Rondo or Ricky Rubio, they've obviously had to transition and really try to evolve their game to be a respectable shooter, which they have for sure. But it's absolutely I would say that it's the most important skill for sure. And along with that, I would say if that's 1A, 1B would just be good decision making or great decision making. You can have all this, and this is speaking from my basketball playing experience, like you have all the skill in the world. You could shoot well, you could dribble well, you could finish well, and all this, that, and the third. But if you're not able to make good decisions on the court, if you're not training the ability to make quick and good decisions, then all those skills go out the window, because nobody needs a workout warrior. They need a basketball player.
Facts. That's a fact. Hey, man, we got a title for this episode, bro? Nobody needs a workout warrior. We need a basketball player? That's a fact. That's a bar.
That's the title right there. I'm writing right now.
This can't be free, bro. Like you got DLam here spitting knowledge on people, man. I couldn't agree more. I have this discussion with my brothers all the time about what the most important skill is, and like for me, when I started locking into shooting in particular and like the ins and outs of it, and you watch basketball now, like yo, if you can't shoot, you really can't get on the court. There's so we did an episode with Wellington earlier this week, and we talked about a big man at Purdue. I can't remember his name. I think it's like he has like a German last name, big man, blonde hair. I saw him play in person against Rutgers. Dude was a beast, like just feasting on the inside, like just killing teams. What happened?
Yeah, recent basketball player.
Recent, bro. He was just there. He was just there. I can't remember the name. It's escaping me.
Isaac Haas.
Yes, him. Yeah, there you go. He's student of the game. Count on DLam for that. But yo, he was a dog. He was a dog throughout his entire career there, and he can't sniff an NBA contract. It just isn't happening. Like he's probably floating around the league, but it's just not. You know what I mean? Like, so I think the one thing he missed from his game was that ability to shoot the ball and trust the floor. And he didn't display that in college. But I can't say he didn't have it. I don't know. But he didn't display it. That wasn't his job, right? So like, it's so crazy because you see it over and over again how important shooting is. Like, if you don't have it, I don't see how you can play. And that's just a conversation piece. But
I mean, I think that along with him though, I think just the traditional bigs in general are disappearing, at least from the NBA. Like, I think you can still succeed with a traditional big man, like a traditional low post center in college, like Isaac Haas did. He had a phenomenal college career, but like you look at a kid like Jahlil Okafor, like 10 years ago, Jahlil Okafor was probably the number one pick. He was he's a long-term NBA vet and everything, but the timing didn't work out. Where I mean, he's still a phenomenal player, and he's done a great job trying to evolve his skill set to try to fit the game, but he's obviously not as adept to it as like a Joel Embiid or Karl Anthony Towns or Jokic or something.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
So we got a couple more questions before we transition to our last segment. What is one thing that a piece of advice that you would give a up and coming basketball player, outside of which, if they weren't listening, you need to be able to shoot? What would be the next piece of advice you would give them?
Can you give me like an age range of who I'm talking to?
We're talking to high school players, freshmen to seniors trying to get into college.
You gotta love this stuff, man. Like you gotta love it. If you don't love this, if you don't love if you're in it for the clout, the girls, the whatever that comes along with basketball, it's not going to work out. If you don't love it, if you're not about it, you're not going to be willing to put in the hard days, the hard nights. You're not going to be like I've talked to kids literally, some of the top high school basketball players in the state who wake up 6 a.m. workout, go to school after school, it's a workout, or practice until late. Then they have to get back home. They have homework, and then it's rinse and repeat. Like, and it's all because they love it. Like they truly love what they do. And if you don't love what you do, and again, it's a lifelong lesson. Like I love what I do, so I'm able to do the 10-hour days, the 12-hour days. If I didn't love what I do, then I would hate every minute of it, and I would just not want to. I would find something else to do. So if you don't love what you do, you're not going to survive for very long. Regardless of your talent level, you might be able to make it through with your talent, but at some point in time, it's going to catch up, and you have to really have that conversation with yourself. Like, do I truly love this, and am I willing to put everything I have into it?
I think that's key. You hear all the greats talk about it, of having that obsession to detail, obsession to get better, which is needed across the board.
Yeah, like that's.
I know you're not getting interviewed, but Greg, do you have a love for podcasting? Because we've been recording since 9 and you're still on with me. Like, is that on? Is it a love for podcast?
I love I love the space. I love to have a space where I could, speak my piece. And I'm a guy loaded with opinions, that. So like having a space like this to talk to guys like DLam and talk to guys like Wellington Smith and guys I've been blessed to meet in the basketball world, like getting this space to be able to give that kind of knowledge back to people on the platform and having a platform in general, that's always been a goal of mine, like lifelong. But Yeah, man, I love podcasting. Clearly you do too. We've been doing this for 2.5 hours.
DLam, real quick, how important is stretching and diet when it comes to middle school and high school players and even college? Because I'm pretty sure you've seen it. Greg, I know you've seen it. A certain age range, you could wake up and you could just go into the gym. You ain't have to stretch. You're able to just shoot your shots. You're dunking. You're jumping out the gym. But when you get higher at the ranks, you're talking about college and professional, they are some of the most athletic, gifted people in the world. But they take stretching and their diet way serious and way more important than some of the younger generation.
It's aside from the dunking and jumping out the gym, I can relate to all that. It's honestly what ended my basketball career. Like, from not taking care of my body, for not stretching, eating freaking pizza rolls and Chef Boyardee and ramen noodles as a teenager all the time, and like that's honestly what that's what did it for me. And had I known these things, had I known how to take care of my body, I would have obviously done so. But it's so important. Like, it's as hard as these players work, and we talk about the love of the game, having to work hard, and that's a given. But there are plenty of hard workers out there that just need more insight on how to work hard. And part of how to work hard, especially if you're logging 3 to 6 hours a day, working out and everything, like, you have to understand how to take care of your body, like the machine that you need to take care of. If you're not sleeping right, you're not hydrating right, if you're not stretching right, doing the right stretches, if you're not obviously in the weight room and not just necessarily throwing out weight, but doing the exercise that you need to obviously build a solid foundation before you start loading up on weight, you're not going to put yourself in a very good position to succeed. Like, you're going to break down a lot sooner than later. Like, people need to understand, like, knee pain should not be like knee pain is not normal. Like, if your knees are hurting, your back is hurting, and everything like that, that's your body's way of telling you something's wrong, and you need to be able to address those things. And if you're just thinking that I'm gonna push through it because you're super tough guy or girl or whatever, like, it's not very well for you. Because I was that same exact guy. I thought I could push through everything. I thought that I was being soft for sitting out or whatever. And I could tell you it did not end up very well for me in terms of my playing career. But when I did learn to take care of my body, the right stretches, the right corrective exercises and everything like that, that's when obviously my body started feeling a lot better.
Real. And as you age too, like this starts to get a little more critical too. Like, I tried to play football this past weekend, not changing the subject, but I was trying to hawk dudes, chasing dudes down. I started feeling a pull in my groin, like it was done. It was
hamstrings just now. I'm feeling my hamstrings.
Like crazy. So like, stretch, please stretch. I remember watching a video of Kobe talking about the importance of stretching. Like, it's just like, if you don't get into the habit of it earlier on, you start to think you're invincible because when you're young, you're like elastic. So it can be to your detriment if you're not stretching, for sure. Last question before we get down to this with the quickness segment, which is a lot of fun. I can't wait to get there. In terms of like, the network you built through your training, right? You've met some pretty cool people. I saw you were on live with I'm kind of mad I don't know his name, but he wants to By Any Means basketball account. Yeah, man, and he does a lot of cool stuff, a lot of great content, and talks a lot of stuff you talked about. How much are you pulling from other guys? I know you mentioned DJ Sackman and people like that. Like, how much are you looking forward to kind of getting to network with more trainers out there, like Devin Williams and people like that?
Sure. I mean, in terms of trainers, like, I'm always obviously looking to grow what I know of and be able to bounce ideas off of other trainers. Like, I've been able to, like you said, I've been fortunate enough to meet or at least have conversations with plenty of basketball trainers or coaches that I really, really respect, and to be able to get ideas from them, bounce ideas off of them, be able to grow and, be able to get different business opportunities that kind of come about from that has been phenomenal. Outside the basketball training spectrum, it's something that I definitely want to continue to do as well. Like, I feel like I've, been very good, fortunate enough to, again, be able to meet a ton of coaches, a ton of parents who hold multiple jobs in different industries, people who are like CEOs of big time companies. So this has been super cool. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, for sure. I definitely try to make an effort to continue to expand my network, be able to kind of stretch my tentacles out and try to, be able to meet and have conversations with different people who, are just fascinating people.
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's key in anything in life is the networking aspect, and being able to have those conversations and being able to communicate. And I think the other thing that's key, which is why you're able to network like that so well, and I'm pretty sure it will continue to grow, is that you know what you're talking about. You know the basketball, you're passionate about it, and you seem eager to learn, and you definitely are humble in regards of having room for improvement. So I think that's also a thing that a lot of people don't understand when it comes to the networking process. Within that, you got to know what you're talking about, and coachable, which is not just being a player, but that's life. Like, you got to be coachable, be able to take lessons and take advice, and be able then to execute and apply it. Transitioning to with the quick next segment, we just want to throw some like rapid fire questions, whatever comes to your mind. These are your own personal thoughts, personal opinions. So don't. If it's a hot take, just let it be a hot take. It's cool.
Do it.
All right. Give me your 5 dream clients that you want to work with.
At any level right now?
Any level.
Sheesh. I'm gonna shout out my man Mackenzie Mbako. That's my first one. I've had the pleasure of working with him a couple of times, but he's a special kid. Does he count since I already worked with him?
No, sure, yeah.
Okay. Giannis Antetokounmpo going out there.
Mm-hmm.
Sheesh. I have not been keeping up with the young players in my phone.
Tough question.
It is a tough one. You guys put me on the spot, but I'm trying to get it out quick. Try not to overthink it.
It's so much talent out there. Somebody's gonna be left off the list.
I'll go with Ian Wilcher in state. Young sophomore, up and coming. Because I'm also trying to think of guys who are like, obviously, like I could say LeBron, but like he's not gonna, like, he's LeBron already with or without a train. He's gonna be LeBron. I'm thinking of guys who could really impact. Another young player out there. I'm gonna go with Tyler Hero because he seems like a fun guy to work with. And lastly, I am gonna go with James Wiseman.
I like that.
I like that list. I like that list. I thought you were throwing the Melo Ball in there. I don't know. Seems like a fun guy he could work with. And we don't know enough about that guy. Like, it's it's like the behind the scenes. He don't post on social media a lot about his workouts, so you don't see it. So I'm always so interested to see what goes into that. You know what I mean? That'd be interesting. But that's a great list.
Just check out LeVar IG.
He don't post his workouts either. We don't see nothing from him about workouts, bro.
If you watch Family Ball in the Family on Facebook, he's showing their workouts. They pretty simple.
They really are. That's the thing.
I think DLam got LeVar on training. I think that's safe to say.
Facts.
You got me on marketing and wrestling and all that stuff. You got me on that.
Marketing genius.
In your opinion, right now, who's the top high school prospect? We've asked Mingo. We've asked Wellington, a lot of people, they talk about DJ Wagner. Some people mention Mikey Williams. Who, in your opinion, is the top high school prospect?
In the country?
Yeah, in the country.
Monty Bates, no question.
Yeah. Slam dunk. Yo, in Jersey.
When we say prospect, are we saying who's the best basketball player right now, or who will eventually be the best basketball player?
Right now.
Best basketball player in state right now. Jalen Blakes.
Blair. From Blair, right?
Yeah, Jalen Blakes.
Okay.
A little bit of bias there, but going with him. Gotta ride with him.
I'm woke to that. I gotta look at him. I gotta watch him more closely. I know you work out with him. He's from Blair. That's the Blair ties.
Yeah, I'd say a little bit of bias, but he's a dog.
All right, I'm tuned in.
Top 3 players in the NBA right now. Who is your top 3?
LeBron, no question. Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry.
I like it.
I like you. That's tough.
Definitely easily the most disrespected superstars, and it's crazy. Steph, who's broken numerous records, has shifted the culture of basketball in general. For him to be this disrespected, it's beyond me. But people forget. It's been 1 year, but people forget. I'm going with Steph.
I'm trying him. Okay, I like that. Let me ask one question real quick, Tone, real quick. And I'm gonna call audible here because I just want to know. I'm sure you've seen Taylor Horton Tucker's emergence in the preseason. I'm sure you've heard all the hype and everything like that.
But I haven't really watched it. I've only seen the highlight clips and whatnot.
Okay. Well, I mean, from an outside perspective, then is this real or is it cap? What do you think with THT?
I'm sure he's a phenomenal player. I am not taking too much stock in the preseason though. It's the same thing we saw with Bobo last year. Not last year. Felt like last year, but before the bubble, the whatever preseason games they're doing, the warm-up games before the bubble. Oh, Bobo's he's going crazy. He's going to be this, that, and the third, and didn't play at all. And it's you can't put too much stock into preseason and these games and stuff like that. If you were in the NBA, if you were suiting up, you can go. I don't care if you're a rookie. I don't care if you're whatever. You are a phenomenal basketball player. I'm sure if they were given those opportunities, they will be able to succeed. But it's about timing, opportunity, and obviously being able to have the skill set. So I don't know. I think he'll have some opportunity just because they had a lot of players leaving, but I don't think it's obviously going to be what they see now. You know what I mean? He's not going to be getting the ball like that once LeBron and AD are back out there like that.
In your opinion, with everything that's happened in the offseason, who is winning the NBA championship this year?
Good question. Got to go for Lakers with the repeat.
Lakers, all right. I
think them and Golden State it's gonna be a very, very interesting series if that happens.
Hey, Mingo picked Golden State to win it all this year, so you might be on to something right there. I think they sleeping on, again, Steph being back. If Clay was healthy too.
Oh, yeah. It's tough not having Clay out there, but I still think they have a very, very good chance to contend.
I think as a Lakers fan, being honest, I think if Clay was there, we're talking about Golden State being right there with LA. Because you got Kelly, a lot of people not taking stock in Kelly Oubre Jr., Draymond, you got Wiseman. This is their first time really having a true big in the post outside of Zaza Pachulia. And I think Wiseman is a clear upgrade right there. Hey, I think they're going to be a team. That's a dark horse team. Yeah, and Wiggins. That's a deep team that people got to watch out for. Does James Harden get traded this year or next year?
I think it happens next year. If it happens, I think it's happening next year. It's just a lot of, I feel like a lot of, I don't want to say it's going to deter teams from wanting him because he's obviously, he's such a high caliber player. But, I think a lot of the kind of noise around him might be a bit of a turnoff. Him going to clubs, between games and stuff like that. During COVID, it's just wild. I don't know. Also, if he only wants to go to Philly or Brooklyn, I don't know what pieces you're giving up for that. You're obviously not going to give up. For him to go to Philly would take they would have to give up Ben Simmons, and I don't know if they're willing to do that.
Yeah.
2 more before we get you out of here. It might be 3 depending on how you answer this. Bron or MJ as your GOAT?
Bron.
All right, so it's 2.
I knew I liked DLam the first time I met him, bro. He just seemed like a sensible dude, bro. Yo, kids, listen up, bro. Just listen to a real one. All right, it's real. This is real men talking right here. Bron, bro. Tell us why.
By that answer, I don't have to ask the follow-up, so we good. We on to the last question then. I ain't got a follow-up on that one. 5 people, dead or alive, that you love to talk basketball with.
Talk basketball with.
Pick their brain just on a basketball level. We typically ask, top 5 people dead or alive that you want to have dinner with. Being that you're a skilled player development, obviously high IQ, who would you want to actually just sit down, dead or alive, that you want to have a conversation with about basketball?
I would have had an easy answer. I would have had easy 5 for you on the last question, because I always talk about that with people. I always ask that question to people and vice versa. But basketball wise, Kobe for sure. RIP. Tex Winter, who I don't know if you guys know who Tex Winter is, but he was a longtime assistant with Phil Jackson with Chicago Bulls and Lakers during both their championship runs, who he essentially kind of was the catalyst behind triangle offense and just everything that they did, from a schematics point of view. He's just a, when we talk about guru, that's him. Say Pat Riley, just to really kind of, get it from an OG. Last 2. I would say Greg Pop, because yes, also obviously from the basketball point of view, but I think that from his ability to deal with players is very, very special. How he's able to, build those relationships and have a unique relationship with every player, I think is very special, and I think that is a huge part of being able to teach the game as well. So what's that 4?
Yeah, that's 4. One more.
No, hold on. I said Kobe, Tex, Pop. Did I say somebody else?
Pat Riley.
Pat Riley.
And I'm gonna throw Bron in there. I'm gonna throw Bron in there just because I want to get another player perspective. You know what I mean? It's cool to be able to hear from coaches and everything, but I feel like Kobe and LeBron are amongst 2 of the smartest basketball players to have ever lived, and I think that goes a long way for sure. It's great to be able to know things from a coach point of view, but it's important to obviously be able to understand from a player point of view as well.
I think you would definitely mesh well with Kobe and Bron with how much they studied film. DeRozan came out, I'm sure you heard about this. DeRozan came out on All the Smoke podcast, and when he was in Toronto, he mentioned how Bron came on the court and dude asked DeMar DeRozan what's the play, and LeBron was able to tell them what their play was. To me, that mind-boggling. And Kobe did stuff like that too. Would tell you you're supposed to go here. You're supposed to set the back screen for him. That's how I got that steal.
I've heard stuff about LeBron beyond that. As crazy as that is, he'll know how to prepare for a team by understanding that this assistant coach who runs the offense, he liked to do things this way when he was still a college coach 7 years prior, or so. It's a different level. It's a different level.
That's the Iman Shumpert interview where he talked about that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even Richard Jefferson talking about it. It's been times where they were having and then we'll end it off with this because we can really just, that's a whole nother podcast. Just talking about LeBron James' brilliance, where they're doing the pregame. Bron is on his phone, and he's like, nah. They like to on the back screen. That's the wrong thing. Wait, you're listening? Yeah, no, that's the wrong play. No, they're going to run a back screen on that one. You're correcting the coach. Like, this is his job. He's supposed to know this stuff. Yeah. And you're correcting David Blatt, letting him know, like, nah, that's not. This is how it's run, and like his brilliance.
It's levels to this. It's levels to this, bro. I'm telling you, it's levels to this. Like, it's not many guys that have done it at that level and are here mentally. You combine the mental ability with the physical ability that Bron has, and it's just like, go, undisputed. Like, we could dispute it. Let me not do that. But we go.
Yeah, that's a conversation for another day. But
yeah,
all in all, like, his greatness cannot be denied. Like, it is just, like you said, levels. It's a level that very few have been able to attain.
Facts.
Yeah, that's a conversation for another day with another set of people, because I think everybody on this show right now, it would kind of just be a love fest. So we would have to get some other opinions in there to, switch it up, have a little back and forth. But this concludes another episode, another installment, a great episode, great content. This is good for ballers of all ages, young, college, even some pros. I know some pros that could take some knowledge from here about shooting that they need to add to their game. We're not going to name no names. That's another episode. But again, we thank you, DLam, for hopping on with us. My listeners, everybody that's tuned in, make sure you subscribe, share it, comment, like, tag somebody, tag a friend. Of course, share it with your baby moms, your uncle, your baby daddy. Even if y'all don't talk, it's Bench Mob. It's sports. It's entertainment. We bring people together. It's just what we do. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.
Peace.
Again, thank you, man.